Hello my friend, James here from Awaken Therapy, and today I wanted to chat with you about reframing. And so this is an essential part of therapy, our healing journey, our inner work, and what it means is we need to look at the parts in us that are causing issues, that are causing problems, causing pain, in a fresh, different way. Because we tend to have like an adversarial relationship with these parts. We judge them as negative, we want to push them away, reject them. A lot of psychology is really focused on trying to get rid of parts, and I'll explore something like the inner critic in some future videos in more detail, because that's such a significant example of what we're talking about here. But if we take a part like the inner critic, or it might be a negative tendency, or it might be old shame or guilt stories, or it might be an addictive pattern or whatever, some negative dynamic. Well, on the surface, yeah, they're negative, they suck, they get in the way, they cause pain and suffering, they're really problematic. And how we tend to approach the work is, I've got this issue, I want to get rid of this part, or I want to just be done with this aspect of me. That's standard, that's completely understandable, and that's very much human nature, where we tend to judge and classify everything. This is good, this is bad. I like this, I don't like that. That's our human nature dealing with duality, really. But when we go to healing, we're going to love. When we're going to love, we're going to soul. We're going up the pyramid, out of that duality. Healing really is about returning back to oneness. Spiritually, it's about going home, back into soul state. So we've had our adventure in separation and duality, and we're returning back to oneness. So healing is basically that. And whenever we heal, we're going to that bigger perspective, we're going to a higher vibration, level of consciousness, of thought, of feeling, which we might call love. And that's what heals. That's where opposites get reconciled, that's where the differences get sorted out. Think of a relationship with someone that's become problematic, or the conflict with someone. And that can go on for a long time and be very difficult. But, think of a time when you're able to sit down with that person and they're open enough to discuss, and you're open enough to discuss, and you kind of thrashed it out and you got through that difficulty, the misunderstanding, whatever it is, and you got to that place of understanding, reconciliation, understanding. The friendship kind of comes back. You find that unified position again, and remember how wonderful that feels. There's a beautiful quote from Course in Miracles that says, "There's no holier place on earth than where an ancient hatred has become a present love." And so if we take that principle and we apply that to our inner work, our shadow work, our root system work, if you want to get into my tree metaphor, when we're doing this inner work, we're dealing with these conflicted parts in us, split, stuck in separation. And essentially that's always fear-based, but it might be fear showing up as anger, rage, or guilt, shame, or sadness, grief, or you name it. But the stuckness of it, the problematic nature of it, the trauma restriction of it, well, it'll show up in pain, in suffering, physical, emotional, mental pain. It can be driving addiction, or some sort of self-medicating behaviour that we're using to manage the pain of that. And when we dig into it, we say, there's this part of me I just hate. I just don't like this part of me. This part of me that makes me drink too much, or this part of me that I feel so worthless or bad about myself, or this part of me that, I'm so angry and resentful. It's very easy and understandable how we judge these parts in a negative sense. And so reframing means we need to turn it around. If you think of that friendship metaphor that's become, there's animosity, with a person we know, we've had a falling out. Think of that. It's like we need to think, well, okay, what was going on for them? What was their experience? What happened in that, perhaps? There needs to be some openness to understanding their perspective, their point of view. And so we apply that to our inner work, and really we just have a whole lot of parts. Think internal family systems, an excellent modality like that, or parts work, or any of these modalities that sort of look at all these parts, Moreno sociometry and things like that. And basically what they're all saying is that, well, we have all these fragments, but to unify the fragments, we need to include them all. And I often say this to people, it's like we've got this very large inner family, and all these children are important. None of these children are bad, or even the black sheep is still a beloved child of ours, and so no one gets left behind. No one gets left behind. That's the approach we want to bring to our inner work. But that means we need to suck up some courage, turn towards the problematic parts. It can be very darkened, very sharp, very pointy, very loud. Think of inner critic being vicious and savage towards us or towards others, outer critic. Or think of something that's so trauma-based and stuck in terror, or deepest shame, or pure rage. Think of some part like that. Well, that's not an easy part to love. That's not an easy child to love. Some rebellious, difficult black sheep child, And so we need courage, we need some maturity, we really need some strength to do it, which is actually why most people don't do therapy. But you're one of the exceptions. I think we're looking at about a third of the population who's really up for this, maybe half on a good day. So we find our maturity, our strength, our love and compassion and kindness, and turn towards the part, the difficult part, the endarkened part, with some gentle curiosity. We're reframing our approach towards it from being something bad that has to be got rid of, surgically removed, rejected, medicated out of existence. We see it as, okay, well, this is an important part of me. What's its job been? What's its role been? How's it been trying to help? When did it develop? You see, stuck parts are stuck at the age of the event, and that could be 3 years old. So it could be a part that came up with a very immature, young, trauma reaction way of coping with something, and of course it's going to be seriously out of date, but it doesn't make it bad. At the time it would have helped, at least once, at least a bit. And so we reframe it with some gentle curiosity. In Eugene Gendlin's word, we bring a gentle acceptance to the part in his focusing modality. Excellent work from the 60s, 70s. And so gently embracing, gently curious, gently trying to understand with empathy. Okay, well, what's really going on with this part? And when we do hypnotherapy, we're doing parts integration work, it's amazing because we're dropping in and we're getting a sense, and we're looking beyond the sharp pointy edges, and we start to see the face of it, the expression and the meaning of it. And what I've found again and again and again and again over 30 years of doing this work with others, and well, I'm 61, so 61 years, well, 40 years of working on myself, is there's always a shift. When we approach it in that way, there's always a shift, there's a softening, and this part can trust us to start to open up and tell its story. Just like if we're approaching a person we've had difficulties with, if we go there gently with some compassion and empathy, and hopefully that opens up enough trust and they're able to respond to that. And I find our parts always do. And so imagine in that reframe, we're shifting our attitude. We're bringing this genuine curiosity. Okay, how's this part been serving me? Okay, it's been hurting me, but how's it been trying to help that's just out of date? And so in that reframe, the healing magic can happen. The magic of our inner work, of our therapeutic transmutation of stuckness can happen. And look, it's hard to give examples. There's so many ways this plays out. But think of maybe an example would be a part that's kept us small, kept us away from people, away from situations, kept us away from maybe venturing into new or uncomfortable situations. very fear-based, obviously, and that can be very frustrating because it's stopping us from connecting with other people or having adventures or new experiences. But if we understand that, okay, what's this part been trying to do? And we find that, it goes back to 6 years of age, or 5, or 10, or 3. And we find that, in the situation at the time, the best way to cope, the safest way to be, was to fly under the radar. And that might have meant staying small. That might have meant being very quiet and inconspicuous in the family situation or whatever. So you can probably imagine you may have, skin in the game here, direct experience of that kind of part. And so even though it's keeping us in a negative state now, we can understand what it was trying to do. And we negotiate with it. We thank it for its work. We express gratitude. We acknowledge it. You were trying to help. Thank you so much. But I want you to know this is really out of date now. And we bring it up to speed. We show it the years that have passed. We show it our adult self and how that defense strategy is wonderful at the time, seriously out of date now. And in that shift, the part always feels sad when it realizes that, it's hurting now, it's getting in the way. There's always a sort of sense of, I don't want to do that. These parts actually all love us. And so in that shift, in that reframing, and in guiding it into the new, and showing it that we've got other ways of protecting ourselves now, we don't need to do it in that way, we've got other options as an adult, strengths and resources. What always happens is the part is happy to have a rest, and I like to reallocate the resources. I like to give the part a new job. So it's not just retiring, it's like, hey, would you like to do something that's more helping? And my favourite thing to do is to flip it into the opposite. So we use that strength and will, rather than keeping us down. In this example, we'd use that strength and will to give us the courage to step out and embrace new challenges and take more risks and go and join some new groups and meet some new people. So, reframing, essential aspect of our inner work, our therapy. Reach out if you have any questions. Please subscribe, follow, make comments. It all helps me spread these kind of messages. But I'm genuinely interested to support you on your journey, whether it's connecting for a session or it's just making a comment, which I do get around to responding to. Send me an email. This is important work, and we need to be doing it more than ever at the moment because everything's dialing up and intensifying. And I'm here for it. There's a lot of wonderful workers on the planet here to help you on your journey.